Okay, we're back with match 3, game 1, in the BoshNRoll $500 challenge. We're very fortunately up 2-0 in the matchup so far. Um, and we're going to see if we can keep the momentum going here. We're on the draw, and there's nothing to talk about with this hand. So we're going to mulligan, and we'll see what's up. They're also mulliganing to 6. Ooh, this is a pretty ugly hand. It doesn't need to draw too much to be good. I mean, expressive iteration does fix a lot of issues, and if I find a brainstorm or a threat, both of those make me feel a little bit more confident. So I think it is a keep. I think it's significantly worse than. Well, I think it's significantly better than going down to 5. Ponder off Trop. That's certainly not the desired start for Brian here. Drawing a force is actually pretty good though. Just because it's a blue card. Any blue card is going to be good so we don't have to push this expressive just in case. Abundant growth. Okay, so they've developed their mana pretty well. So we really need to get on board. That's key one here. Ponder. That's going to help because we need to find a creature here. And this is actually pretty good. Delver does work. I mean, we've these Delver decks have more become Ragavan decks as they've been trimming Delvers over time, but it's still a very potent threat in a lot of situations, and I think it's going to be exactly what we're looking for here. Abundant growth, sure. I'm not going to fight over Icewind Coval because we have Unholy Heat to answer that at least, and I'd like to just hold on my Force Wills. But I will. So we're going to reveal. So I will probably expressive before combat. Actually, that might not be true because they don't have the third Snowland. So I think we're just going to start by attacking because there's basically nothing that I would ever get on a Holy Heat here. Plow is good. Using Delvers to get rid of the plows it's a pretty important interaction in this deck because Murktide is really important. Murktide is the threat that matters. So this is a good expressive. We're going to go Ponder in bottom, Force. Ponder in hand. I was thinking of it like like resolving a Ponder there. Ponder in hand, Force in the bottom, Delver in exile, and just play a second Delver here. Now, this is a pretty good situation. They only have 4 cards in hand. We have another expressive to refuel, and a Force Wall to make sure that they don't do anything particularly problematic. More pondering. There is some discussion as to whether I'm supposed to force pitch or force, but I don't think that's the case. Sylvan Library. So I let Sylvan Libraries resolve pretty much all the time. Delver is an aggressively slanted deck. So you can pressure the life total pretty effectively, even in the face of Uros. And it's too valuable. Like, it's an engine card, but it's an engine that requires life from them. And life is the resource that they do not have in spades. Not all the time, at least. So okay, so this is good. So we could just go for the Murktide this turn and then back it up with Double Force, but I like a little bit. I don't really want to hit this land drop here. I want to just play Ragavan and put the Murktide in my hand. So, and then we can go Double Force, like Force Pitch Ponder, and Murktide if we need to get into that situation. So let's go Murktide in hand, Tarn, Ragavan. Let's attack here. Now, it might have been right to attack first. So if they had a Sword of Plowshares, they'd be more likely to kill my Delver. But I actually might value the Delver more than the Ragavan at this point. Ragavan's good, but it's not going to get anything random off the top of their deck. That's particularly effective because of the Sylvan. And at the same time, we want to pressure the life total more than we want to pressure their card advantage. Or like play, the mana game. Because we've already developed pretty effectively here. So we're in a good situation. By no means are we out of the woods. Gotta keep in mind I can get a Dryad Arbor, but we have Unholy Heat to check that at instant speed. I imagine they might still go after the Ragavan. I do think the Delver is more valuable, but I could see a world where he does not. I think the Dryad Arbor trick would have done some work for them there, but now we're going to get to go Murktide plus Double Force, and that's going to put me in a pretty good situation because I will just defend. I will just defend my Murktide. Because we'll have 9 power on board. So we'll play this. I'm okay having the lands in play. You kind of do want to have some amount of lands in play because of cards like Excessive Iteration. They're going to force pitching Yorion, which we will happily force back pitching Force. If it's just Swords to Plowshares on the Murktide, I will, again, happily force all that. That's pretty good. They paid Life. That's a very good sign. That might mean that they have Uro on top. Or that they're digging. And I would guess, seeing that we're starting with a Brainstorm here, that means they're digging. Because if they had Brainstorm plus Uro, they would cast Uro to see an extra, the card they knew about off Sylvan Library. Then they'd cast Brainstorm to see an extra 3 cards. So this tells me that they were just trying to dig. They could have a second Swords to Plowshares. But again, in an 80 card deck, it's not as likely. And we've defended our threats and we've won game 1 with the aggressively slanted strategy. So Delver was pretty clutch there. Of course, Murktide was the big haymaker, but the damage from the Insectile Aberration really set them in an awkward situation with their Sylvan Library. And that's why I let Sylvan Libraries resolve. Most of the time. You know, it's not going to happen all the time. Okay, we've seen the sideboard plan before. I think it still makes a lot of sense to play like this. I think the plan has been reasonably effective. So let's just go with the default here. The Submergers have been very good in the matchup. As I talked about in the deck tech, Submerge isn't for this matchup. It's really for like decks like Green-White Depth that have been more difficult, more challenging matchups for this deck to play against, as well as other decks for Merit Lodge. And Elves has picked up, so having a free card there is really nice. But I do think Submerge does do a fair amount of work in this matchup, and I think, considering that this matchup can be difficult at times, I think it's a little bit of good overlap. So I think the 2 Submergers are a good direction to go here. Okay, here we are for game 2. We won game 1. This is an interesting hand, because it kind of sucks. This is too many copies of Unholy Heat. Or too many removal spells, because it's not the thing that matters at all stages. It doesn't have a second land, and our threat is honestly a little bit far away from getting online. But we're on the draw. Ponder fixes a lot of problems, and if we find another land, then we at least have Murktide plus a Forcible, which can do some stuff, and Unholy Heat's not a bad card in the matchup. It just, there's a lot of stages where we don't really want it early. But I'm going to keep it. I am going to be pretty tempted to actually just search up the island. We've seen 3 copies of Wasteland. I would guess there are 4. And that's a problem. But we did just draw the land right away, which is good. We did have a decent amount of looks for it, so it's not a huge deal. Court of Cunning, Dragon's Rage Channel, or Fluttershan. So these are good. These are really good. The Court of Cunning really helps us develop a plan here. And with the 2 Unholy Heats, we can do a decent job at protecting it. So I'm actually going to... I'm basically going to draw this land in all worlds here. I want all 3 of these. And I think I'm going to play the Channeler next turn. I think it's the worst card. We could get rid of it. But once we play a creature early, now we're forcing our opponent to interact with us, which makes the Court of Cunning more likely to be meaningful. Because now they're tapping out at... critical junctions. We also have to be mindful of Dryad Arbor with the ambush on the Court of Cunning. So I'm going to draw the Court of Cunning just in case. I can't really imagine a world where I'd have to double Forcible anything here, especially not when I'd pitch my 2 best cards in a matchup. But it is worth thinking about. Okay, so far nothing from them. I'm going to play the Channeler. I'm okay shuffling away the land. I'm happier to shuffle away the land than I am to shuffle away the court, because I have more lands than I have courts, of course. So hopefully they'll not tap out for something, but hopefully they'll be tempted to do something here, because then court can resolve on a more stable board. The fetch implies that they will do something, and this also means they don't really have Dryad Arbor up. But we'll see what's happening. Wasteland. Okay, into Uro. This is good. This is really good as long as they don't have another Wasteland, because they're developing and then missing a land drop. They're developing, but not in a way that interacts with our court. And because they missed the land, it's kind of like they're not even developing at all, honestly. So this is a very good situation for us. Now I will be happy to pitch the Mugtide if I can draw another blue card. And now we'll just get the court down. We'll bin the land. We have the monarchy. We can just attack in for 1. And I'm kind of just hoping to draw blue cards at this stage. Ragavan's not a bad draw if we don't get Wastelanded off of all of our cards. But that seems pretty unlikely at this stage. So with Court of Cunning, against the Euro decks, you don't really want to mill them. Especially when they have Endurance, you're just never going to really win the game like that. So we're going to mill no one. I mean, we could mill ourselves to get Delirium. That's actually kind of reasonable, because if they have Endurance... Yeah, actually, I think I will mill ourselves. So we'll mill ourselves for 10. It's a lot. It could prove to be a little problematic. We lost a Narset, which does matter, but we're probably going to get Endurance at some point. But what this does is it turns on the Unholy Heat, which is pretty important. So Wasteland's a great draw here, so we'll Wasteland their Trop. If they're going to Endurance, they have to do it now. Or at least before we enter combat. They do have Endurance, so we'll let that resolve. And then we'll Unholy Heat with the trigger on the stack. Just so we can maintain Delirium. So these 2 Unholy Heats are really coming in handy. We'll draw that for sure. So all of our cards go on the bottom, so we're not going to mill out. And then we can dash in Ragavan. Okay, we didn't hit anything, but we did deny them a Prismatic Vista, which does matter. And now that we're drawing a Brainstorm, I'm reasonably happy to just pitch both of our blue cards, because we have an answer for creatures and multiple threats going already. Abundant Growth. There's some merit to just fighting over that. I don't think it's worth it, though. Like, yeah, this is turning on their white cards, but... Plus, we've seen Mystical Disputes in almost every post-board game, so I think it's really worth being aware of that. And this is interesting. So, they didn't have a white card answer for the Dragon's Rage Channeler. I guess they just want to hit land drops. This is going to be tough for them. This is a really tough situation for them. It's not over necessarily. I will target myself again. Actually, let's do that, and then... should I... Maybe I'll just Brainstorm in my upkeep, because then I can get rid of... I can use this as a shuffle effect. That's actually pretty interesting. I think I am going to do that. I'll top that. It's a blue card. I think any blue card is good here. All these cards are very good. So this is the awkward part with it, because, like, if I found a good card. So I guess with Devil's Secret being the worst of these cards, I can just get rid of that. And I actually just don't think I need this Mugtide, although we will be able to play it instead of the Ragavan here. And then maybe that's just, like, good enough. Maybe I just get rid of the Ragavan. Yeah, that actually sounds pretty reasonable. Just, it applies a lot more pressure. We need to not give them too much time here. Ponder's good. So we are at Delirium. So let's start with Ponder. I'll keep a land. I think hitting the land drops here is pretty reasonable. Okay. I don't think I need the Bolt. Maybe Bolt's okay. I don't think it's that good, though. And maybe I just don't need the land then. Like, I think with these bad cards, like, I could just keep the land and then shuffle them away. But I think I'd rather just, like, go for a shuffle here. If we get... I can't imagine in a world where we get Wastelanded here. And if he's considering Endurance, like Altcast, that's really not a big deal. So let's just get the Murktide Regent down. We can exile... I'll leave the Surgical in just in case we do get Endurance and we want to draw it again. I'll leave the Bolt in too. Bolt's a little bit more unique than Expressive Iteration here. Now we have an 8/8 Murktide. We get to draw. We have 3 free cards up, 2 Forces and a Submerge, and an Unholy Heat to interact with creatures. Okay, we'll let the Murktide go, because we're just winning the card game very easily here. Or the card advantage game. And now I'm not going to target ourselves. We're already basically at Delirium. So I don't need to just keep mailing myself needlessly. Okay, so yeah, they're just 1-for-1ing, which makes some sense. You know, they want to try to keep the board as clear as possible, so Uro can potentially start doing some stuff. Ragavan's a good draw, so let's just start with that before I Brainstorm. Just see what we hit. Misty, which not good for us, but good to deny them. Let's cast Brainstorm. There's Wasteland. That could be good as this game goes on a little bit, but I don't think I'm really looking for that at the moment. I think I'd be happier to just play Delver of Secrets. And this is why I didn't fight over the answers this time around. Just because we're drawing so many cards that we can just find more threats. We'll just easily outpace what they have going on here. Now, they do have 5 spells in hand, so that is worth noting. It's not the perfect situation for us. In that regard. Again, we have 7 cards in hand. We have a Quarter Cunning, multiple threats. We have a lot going on. But it is worth thinking in these situations how you lose. And a situation where there's a card we have to double Force of Will, and then we flood a little bit on the Monarchy, that's something that could happen. It's not terribly likely, but that's something to keep in mind. And when I'm playing these games, I'm really never forgetting how I can lose. Because I think sometimes it's easy to just kind of get lost a little bit in how far ahead you are. And, I'm sure Brian is thinking about all of his outs, not about how, far behind it is. He's thinking, okay, I'm going to play this game because this is a game for stakes. There's a lot going on here. Carpet of Flowers. Interesting. So if this gets Mystical Disputed, that's a way things get a little awkward here for sure. This is a lot of mana for my opponent. Because then I'm just going to have to start forcing Oros. I think I'm going to force pitching to Submerge. I think I'm less likely to need that. If this gets Mystical Disputed, I might just let it resolve. I'm not sure. Carpet's certainly the start of a situation that could get bad for sure. So I'm not targeting anyone with this court, so let's just reveal to Delver. See what we hit. Pyroblast is a great hit, for sure. Nobody gets milled. We could mill them, because they know the top card. I like not doing that. Just because they have the Oro, we're still kind of keeping that in check to some degree. So there's no Mystical Dispute. Yeah, we hit a Wasteland. That's reasonable. And we're just going to pass. I don't think I need to cast this Ponder. We have multiple pieces of interaction. I want to make sure we have blue cards. Narset's going to be great for next turn. Ramunap Excavator. I think I can just get rid of that. Let's just force that. Even though I have the Unholy Heat, the Unholy Heat's still going to be good against my opponent's cards. We're going to get to play Narset. Now we're out of forces, though. This is what I was talking about. We find ourselves in a situation where we have to Force Will a couple times. We still have... Our draw is still good. Our cards in hand are still good. And Expressive Iteration kind of only makes it better here. But let's start with a dash. See where we hit. Plow and Delver. This makes a lot of sense to me. That they would choose that instead of the Vagavan. So let's go Expressive Iteration. Because if I find Murktide Regent, I might just play that. We found Forcible, Flusterstorm, Submerge. So, yeah, it doesn't really matter. I think Flusterstorm will just exile that. Keep the Submerge in our deck. Let's get the Volk. I am going to play this. It's a little bit bold, just in case we miss on blue cards for this Forcible. But I think Narset's going to do a pretty decent job against them here. Because now Uro's not really much of a threat. And they can't, cantrip out of this anymore. So, we have plenty of threats left in our deck, too. So, we have 3 Murktides remaining. Tundra, okay. So, if it's just Flashback Uro, I'll probably just Pyroblast that so they don't gain the life. It's not drawing them the card, but I think I'd be killing it anyway, and I think Unholy Heat's more valuable because of cards like Endurance. So, again, milling no one at this stage. So, let's hit him with Ragavan before we do anything. Let's minus Narset. We hit Caracas. That's actually pretty good for us considering what's going on here. Bolt versus Pyroblast is kind of interesting, but I think Bolt is better because I'm just going to force the Uro if they go for it. I know we have 2 lands on bottom of our deck now. That really depended on what my plan was going to be. If I was just going to Unholy Heat it, I might have just kept the Pyroblast but I think I am just planning on forcing it. We only have 1 bolt. This is our last bolt. So, it's not a big deal, because these Vagavans are pretty likely to connect eventually here. But, Leovold. Okay, I'm going to let that resolve, and then I'm going to Unholy Heat it, because they don't get to draw a card. And then I'll Vagavan, dash, bolt, and I can force any disruption. They only have 2 cards in hand. I don't think they can have anything at this stage. So they don't get to draw. That dies. I'll play around Foster's Storm. Okay, we got it. Nice. Okay, so we just finished the third match. We're 3-0, which is very fortunate. I'm pretty happy with how this played out. And we'll be back for the fourth. Okay, we're here with match 4, game 1 in the BoshNRoll $500 challenge. We're on the play. We won the previous 3, which is very fortunate. So let's see if we can keep it up. Okay, this hand has some clear issues. It's very land heavy, but it has a lot of threats, which I think is really important in the matchup. And we just need to draw kind of any cantrip, and we're really going to start going off with this hand. So I think this is the key. We're going to lead on Delver for the maximum damage output on turn 1. The nice thing with this is, again, as we've seen a couple of times, his deck doesn't play any Wrath effects, so there's no risk here. We're just going to force him to kind of 1-for-1 with us. Abundant Growth is fine. I wouldn't daze that even if we had one. Scalding Taunt, I'll withdraw for sure. But we'll just crack in for 1, follow it up with Double Channeler, and just hope to draw kind of anything. I mean, we could just play 1 Channeler and then play a fetch land and get the scry that way. But I think the upside of just spiking a cantrip and then just being able to double surveil and really start to go off is a bit too high. So we really just need to draw kind of any of our any spell that's not Force of Will or Daze, really. We'll do it. We don't really want creatures either, but Ragavan's potentially acceptable. It's possible that he's able to answer all of these creatures, and then we'll be in a pretty tough situation. This is kind of all we have. But there's certainly a range of draws that that deck is going to keep that isn't going to be able to deal with this in a timely manner. That being said, if they don't transform, if I can't turn these creatures into flying threats, then it's not going to be nearly as meaningful. Bird to Paradise instead of an answer. So yeah, this is the perfect turn to draw basically any gut shot. I'll accept that, yeah. So take a gut shot, and we'll definitely just play the land. Scalding Taunt, we'll gut shot for mana. There's no benefit to doing it for life. Daze can go in the yard. I don't really need that. Brainstorm on top, that's the perfect hit. So now we can crack in for 5. Endurance is for sure the most problematic card. I could have kept the Daze because of the Endurance, but I think it's possible that he just main phases it, and I think we just need to work towards our cantrip. Because even if Endurance comes down, we can manage that. It's not unbelievable that we would find ourselves in a situation where we can handle that, especially when we're drawing a Brainstorm. So as I talked about earlier, you do want to play more lands than with other Delver variants in the past because of expressive iteration, but you don't want to run out too many, and I think this is certainly one of the reasons. We have 2 lands, we're going to draw Brainstorm, we're going to make it essentially an ancestral recall because our hand doesn't really do anything. So he continues to develop mana. He could have Green Sunned for an Ice Fang Coatl. I would expect him to actually just have an Ice Fang Coatl here. It doesn't really change, we're going to top that. It doesn't really change anything about what we're doing here. I think we're okay running into it. Sword Splashes. Okay, that's acceptable. So no Coatl. So these aren't great, but it's not going to take... Again, it doesn't take too much. All we need to do is find a creature to put in the yard at this stage. Definitely just going to Ponder, no doubt. So bin that. I'm going to bin the Daze still. I really don't think we're in the market for that. And this is good. This is a good set. So we can go Force on bottom, Murktide, Brainstorm. We won't shuffle, and we'll just cast the Brainstorm here. So we'll bin the Murktide, turn on Delirium, top the Force of Will, so we can guarantee ourselves a blue card. Put back, let's say we put back the 2 lands, because if we do have the opportunity to force, we can just get rid of the 2 cards on top. And if we don't, like, let's say we put back Seam Vents on Holy Heat, then played the Strand with the plan of potentially shuffling, that doesn't really work as well if we have to force. So the worst case is, like, if we want the Unholy Heat, and we play the fetch land, we'll kind of end up in the same situation next turn, except we don't really want the land, you know? So I think this makes the most sense. We'll put the Strand on top just in case we don't have to force a will. We'll attack, and we'll kind of force any disruption here. I think we're in a good enough situation with these two Dragon-related channelers. So I like where we're at. And as you can see, our hand did start off pretty poor, but all we needed was any cantrip, and we were going to start doing it. So, very easy force of will on this Endurance. The Unholy Heat doesn't answer the Endurance once it resolves. We have Lethal, so if Icewind Quaddle is the thing we're going to face down here, then okay, that's really good too. So we should be all set. I'll Unholy Heat it before damage. It's just a chump blocker because there's only 2 snows per minute, but we can top Murktide here. Okay, cool. We got this game. Yeah, and I think this is the kind of draw you want in the matchup. It just kind of forced him to trip up a little bit. He didn't have any interactive spells until a little bit later, and that gave us the time. Like, if our hand just started with a cantrip and all those threats, it would have been really close to exactly the hand I'm looking for in this matchup. So, yeah, I don't think anything really changes about our plan. It's been pretty consistent. It's been really functional. And I like the way the post-board games have been playing out. It's been right on track with how I've been thinking about the matchup. So let's give it another shot. Okay, so we're here with game 2. We're on the draw, and this hand is... It's okay. It's okay. Like a lot of hands, we kind of just want to draw a cantrip to kind of fill out. You know, we have a little bit too many lands here. Like, that's one of the qualities of Legacy Delver. You don't really want to draw so many lands, but we do have uses for them in our deck because we have Expressive Iteration, we have Narset, Quarter Cunning, so it's not that bad. The Forcible is really awkward, but I think it's a lot better than any, like a random 6. Like, I think there's R6s that could be better than this, but I don't think mulliganing gets much better. It's just kind of, we gotta hope to draw a cantrip and see how far our Delver can take us. So this seems reasonable to me. And cantrip, that's a great draw. So I'm going to start on fetch land. And the reason I'm doing this, as opposed to just playing the island, there's a couple of reasons. The first is that because I drew this Ponder, I want to leave myself some optionality with how I'm going to play it. If I just play this and I see a card I like, if I play the island and I see a card I like and I don't draw another land for a turn, and let's say I see 2 cards I like, then I have to shuffle away the third, which is not exactly the place I want to be. This gives me the optionality to go ponder, see 2 cards I like, keep one, keep the other, and then shuffle away the third. And if I only see 1 card I like, I can always shuffle it away because I still have this fetch land. So that's the number 1 reason. The number 2 is that it's just generally better to have the red source in play because of Pyroblast. So we're going to start by attacking. I can't dash a Ragavan, and I don't think I need to ponder. Like, I think the thing, it feels like Brian has a Sword Sabashias here, and he was waiting for Ragavan. So if I just ponder and he's going to swords me, he knows I can't dash Ragavan at that stage. So that makes sense. We've seen Mystical Dispute from him, but I don't think it matters too much on this Ponder right now, even though it's an important card. And yeah, we're going to see exactly the thing I talked about. I want both of these cards. But that being said, it's possible that this isn't exactly the situation because there's no rush to cast anything here. I can just keep the Brainstorm and draw the Ponder next turn. So it's not exactly the situation I illustrated, but it's certainly in line with it. So to that end, it's possible I just played the Scalding Taunt, but I don't think that's correct. I think it's better to just play the island. I don't need to have Pyroblast up this turn. Yeah, I think game 1, it's a lot better to defend your threats. I think in the post-board games, we have enough sticky threats that we don't need to defend it. Brainstorm, okay. So the only thing that would have punished me for not playing the Scalding Tarn is if Brian went for an Icefang Coatl there. That's the card I'd most want to cast Pyroblast on. And it's possible to still play it, but I think at this point he's going to be a little bit more resigned to play around Daze, which makes some sense. So I'm actually going to fetch, and then I'm going to ponder. I could just brainstorm now, draw one, I draw the Volk I know about, and then 2 fetch ones. But I think I want to see as many new cards as possible here. This deck has a lot of card selection, so I kind of just want to make sure I'm seeing as deep as I can for the cards I'm looking for. And these are great. So I need to be mindful of Endurance. That's the number 1 card in my mind, but I have to merge and force to check that. I think I can pretty comfortably put Murktide on the bottom and set up a Dash Dragavane next turn. We do have to keep Dryad Arbor in mind, because Windswept Teeth can get Dryad Arbor, but I think as it stands, this is about as good as it gets. And I can actually just turn on Delirium next turn by casting a Brainstorm and binning the Murktide Regent. So I actually really like this set of cards. Alternatively, if I have to cast a Pyroblast or Force or something over the next turn, I'll probably bin the Ragavan to just draw the Murktide Regent. Murktide is a very good card in this matchup. Ragavan is good too, of course, but okay, I love seeing these Swords to Plowshares here. This is great because we have Ragavan plus Murktide, the 2 threats that can only be answered by Swords to Plowshares. So we know there's no Prismatic Vistas in our opponent's hand. And this is part of the power of Izzet right now. You know, you really overtax, certain elements of their removal. Because they really need specific removal spells at specific times. So Green Sun for 2. If this is just Icefang Coatl, that is okay. If it's Scavenging Ooze, I can submerge it and then cast it. So I think I'm happy. Like, I can just Pyroblast the Icefang Coatl. That's not a big deal. I could also just submerge the Icefang Coatl and cast it too. That actually might be the best route here. Submerge does have a little bit more value than Pyroblast in general, but it's kind of nice to just know I'm going to get a card off of it. It's possible he has more Swords to Plowshares, and that's what him casting them a little bit freely means. But based on how this is playing out, I'm not sure if that's the case. I'm going to go for the Submerge on the Icefang and try to dash Ragavan and take it. If he plows this, I might force pitching Brainstorm past the Exile. I think I'm in a good enough situation where maybe I just force pitching the Force. There aren't too, like, Endurance is the number 1 card I'm concerned with, but I think we'll start to get ground down a little bit too much on resources. I'm definitely going to force it. There's no question. The question is, what do we pitch? We do have the Ragavan to kind of claw through some of that, and if we can Force Will another threat. But Pyroblast is still pretty good. The only thing I'm concerned about is Endurance. But we have Murktide to kind of counteract that. So I'm going to force pitch Force here. We'll take the Icefang Coatl. We'll get our card off of this, which is really nice. We still have the Ragavan as a threat in the future. And our hand is still pretty strong. Endurance, again, as we've seen many times, is the card I am most concerned with. It's possible he'll just cast it on his main phase here. Leovold. That doesn't bother me as much. I can pretty happily Pyroblast that. Drawing another one's nice. So we have to start with a Pyroblast here. And I am just going to Brainstorm here. I don't mind just casting the Ragavan. Okay, these are potentially reasonable. Ooh, a lot of options here, actually. So the Coatl's going to get the clock in for 1, and we're missing a land, so it is possible we find ourselves in a situation where we're going to get Wasteland out of red. But we can actually set it up where we keep Submerge plus Daze, so if a Wasteland just gets fired off on our red source, we can just Submerge this and then Daze it, returning the thing, not pay for it, so then we'll get to keep the Icefang Coatl. And we get to save our red source. And then we can follow that up with a Murktide Regent, which I think is going to be pretty good here. The problem is what we're going to do with our cards here. I kind of want to keep the options as open as possible. And to me, that means I want, in my hand, all 3 of these creatures. Because that gives me the the ability to go dash Ragavan, make a red source, cast Dragon's Rage Channeler, or just cast Murktide if I decide that's the thing to do. But if I want to keep the Submerge plus Daze, and I want all three of those, the only card I can put on bottom is Pyroblast, which is a little awkward, but I think it makes the most sense here, not only because of the optionality, but because Pyroblast answers permanents too, and we're not... Resources are a little bit light for us, so I think putting Pyroblast up... Like, we're not going to be holding it up to counter their spells too often here. So I think this makes the most sense, and we can just clock in for 1 here. There's no chance he swords his Ice Vanquaddle here. So I'm pretty comfortable with how this is playing out. Uro, that's okay. We have the Pyroblast ready to go for that. This feels like... Okay, so it's a Bird's Paradise. That's okay. That gives him a chump for Murktide, but that's not too big of a deal. So I do like the Murktide Regent here. So I'm going to attack for 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could submerge my own Murktide to protect it from a removal spell if that comes up, but I don't think that's the direction I want to go here. There is some question about what I'm going to do with this Uro. We're going to see how this plays out. I'll see what Brian does here. I'm actually generally pretty happy to just submerge it, if I'm honest. There's a lot to be said about that play, especially when I have a Ragavan. The nice thing about it is it's such a huge tempo swing. Like, he has to waste his time on the Uro. This is a little awkward. This is still getting him to waste time, though. So I could go Submerge plus Daze to save it, but I think that's worse than just submerging the Uro and relying on what I have going on here. It might not work out. And I want to submerge this now, because if he does have Mystical Dispute, I want to daze the Mystical Dispute. So this is okay. It's only really bad if he has a Sword of Splashes on the Murktide. Scavenging Ooze. That doesn't actually matter, which is pretty nice, because... so I want to hold this daze to stop an Uro getting flashback. So I think I'd rather not daze this. So we can Kraken for 9. He's at 7, so he's not quite dead on the following turn. Uro, okay. He also has his Bird's Paradise, so gotta keep that in mind. Abundant Growth, sure. I'm certainly aware of the possibility that I should have dazed the Scavenging Ooze, but because Daze is gonna, like, lose value, for sure. But if I draw Force of Will, it's okay to have. Again, I was playing around specifically. He plays Uro, plays a land off Uro, flashes it back, or escapes it for 4 mana, and I can daze it. In that case, if he only has 1 land. And Prismatic Ending for 2. So part of me actually wants to daze this so I can get in through the Birds of Paradise. That might actually be the best use I'm going to get out of this, if I'm honest. At this stage. But, no, I think it's okay. This Bird is definitely jumping in the way. Brainstorm, great draw. Definitely the best draw. Oh, into nothing. Okay, so I have to just win with Murktide Regent plus Daze. That is acceptable. It is doable in this situation. He's going to have a decent amount of draws, so it's not like I'm particularly confident about the situation, but it's kind of what we have to work with. So, of course, he can't eat any of my instants and sorceries, otherwise that buffs the Murktide. Yeah, I don't think him being at 1 and him being at 9 is like that big of a deal, because he still would have had the birds in order to chump block, so. Ponder, okay. I mean, this is not looking great. I will just concede to a Sword Spellshards, because this Murktide is my entire plan. Chooses to shuffle. Okay, so he's going to see a lot of looks. He's going to have a lot of looks over his next 2 turns. He's not quite able to stabilize with just his life gain, too, because he can eat this bird, go up to 12, gain 3 up to 15, but this is still 2 turn, so. Okay, we'll attack for 8. This Daze could actually do something against the Yorion, too, which is interesting. Certainly not a guarantee, but... Okay, we're clocked in for 9. We're basically stone cold against any Murktide region answers. There's a lot of them too. I mean, any number of Green Sun Zenith or Night of Autumn to gain 4. Okay, so are we dead? So 3, 6. We go to 1 as it stands if they gain 4 and have nothing, like no way to add damage. But I do think it's best for us to continue as we are here. This feels like something. Yeah, okay, so, yep. We are dead to the Ice Quaddle, because we're drawing a blank this turn, and we can't really clock it anymore. Okay, cool. That was definitely interesting. I mean, I don't think Dazing the Scavenger Ooze mattered too much there. Maybe the Submerge plus Daze to save our red source, because we couldn't cast spells anymore. That's justifiable for sure, but... so what we were doing earlier is cutting the Surgical and bringing in another Daze while we're on the play. And I think that still makes sense. We can just kind of push through enough aggression that the Uro might not be able to take advantage of that. Or, like, stabilize the borders consistently. Okay, we're on the play for Game 3 of Match 4. This isn't the kind of hand I'm looking for in this matchup, but you really can't mulligan it. So many of these hands I've been asking to just find a cantrip, and this hand, being all cantrips, is at least worthwhile. I don't think Force of Will, Pyroblast, Wasteland, I don't think that's the type of card we're looking for. I think we just need to find threats more than anything. Like, the interaction's nice, but even if our deck's up a little bit better to, you know, play a longer game, I still don't think that's the... I should keep a Ponder that's going to force us into that situation. So I'm happily going to Brainstorm here. This is a great place to do it. Finding all lands is pretty brutal, but that's okay. We still have these 2 cantrips to fill it out. I'll keep the Wasteland just in case. There certainly are cards I would want it against. So let's Ponder. Force Murktide Submerge. These are quite a bit better. So yeah, let's keep these. I'm definitely gonna Brainstorm next turn. So let's just keep the Force for now. I don't think there's anything I would force here, but I would certainly force a Swords on this Murktide. I think forcing him to have that answer at the right time. Because Murktide just closes the door so quickly. No shuffle. Okay, so let's just fire off this Brainstorm. Great set of cards. I think it's still worth defending this Murktide as well. So let's just put these 2 back, and we'll just play Murktide. I'll probably force removing the Daze. Again, there aren't that many answers to Murktide in my opponent's deck. Obviously, this is a card that he's aware of, but it's not like he's just flooding the board, like flooding the game with answers to it. I'm just going to set an upkeep and then step up just in case he's getting Dried Arbor. There's no way he's getting Dried Arbor, but there's no reason to expose myself in that way. So if I force, I am playing into Mystical Dispute a little bit, but that's not too big of a deal. And it's a little punishing to see the Wasteland here. I mean, the Wasteland target, but I'm actually going to Daze this. I think we're going to be clocking in really hard with this Murktide, and we have Expressive to kind of stop pulling ahead a little bit. So I want to keep us on the same page here. So I am just going to Expressive right now, see what we're going to find. I think this is a good set of cards. So Force Will in hand, Island on top, Channeler. We can just play the Channeler just in case there's something we can interact with, but I'm sure there's no forces in Brian's deck. And we're in a pretty good situation. I mean, Submerge keeps the Endurance in check. And Force of Will keep Plows in check. I assume a Plow would have come down there if he just had one. That's about as good of a time to do it as any. So he's kind of floundering around a little bit here. He's trying to develop. Okay, I will force this. As I mentioned, I think this is definitely worthwhile. It also gives us a Surveil, which matters. I don't think I actually want Pyroblast. It's kind of weird, but I think I just want to find more cantrips. Okay, so he did have Plow and he decided not to play it. So I'm actually going to submerge the Murktide to the top because I think it's a good enough threat to justify that. Of course, the Surveil card's not going to matter quite yet, but in 2 turns it will. Okay, so now we're going to have to face down Uro for sure, but it's not too big of a deal. We have an 8-8 ready to go and the Unholy Heat to potentially catch it. I don't think the Pyroblast is what I was looking for. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so he must have another land in hand to get this Uro down. Endurance. Interesting. Okay. Okay, so now the Murktide looks pretty bad. That's okay. I think it's a reasonable line. I mean, if he was just going to answer all of our threats, I still needed to keep this Uro on top. I mean, this Murktide. And it looks like we're not going to be facing down Vamanob. Okay. We're not facing down Uro this turn, but certainly next turn. So we need to draw something. I mean, this has gotten a little bit dire. Pushing through the Murktide aggressively certainly exposed ourselves to their game plan rather than, like interacting with the interaction rather than the plan. Certainly exposed us here a little bit more. But I think it was worthwhile because I don't think our hand was really that set up to, like, effectively answer what they were doing long term. We're not out of it yet, though. So we can just go Delver of Secrets. They only have 1 card in hand, but we're gonna see this Uro come down for sure. And that's gonna make this look a lot worse. Like, Ramanop I could manage by itself, but the Uro is gonna be a problem. Green Sun for 3. Okay, so that's gonna be a Leovold. So Expressive Iteration still works through that, importantly enough. So that's for sure our best draw. No set. Well, that also still works through it. I think that's worth keeping too. And I'll just play it and I'm gonna minus it. I'm not sure. Mystical Dispute. Okay. Well, I would think so. Oh, Ice Fang Waddle. Okay. So now I can't save it, which is a little annoying, but it's not a big deal. There's the Expressive Iteration, so that's certainly the start of how we're gonna get out of this. So that's gonna put Planeswalker in my yard. So I think we need to keep this Delver around. Yep, so now sit down, a little bit closer to Delirium. Uro, as we expected. Okay, this one's looking extremely dire. But it's not over yet. Unmoored Ego. Oh, that's funny. Well, I mean, it's gotta just be humorous to bring this in unless he's thinking that Murktide's such a problem. But with Leovold, it's funny because I don't get to draw the cards. Expressive Iteration. Oh, because he knew I had it. Okay. Okay. I'll probably say we're dead now. Okay. We'll pack it in. Okay, so we lost match 4. So I'll join you back for match 5, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, here we are for match 5, the final match of the BoshNRoll $500 challenge. We've won the die roll. We just lost match 4 to an Unmoored Ego, but that's not, saying that's what we lost to is a little bit misleading. Bearing the lead, perhaps. And here we have a very serviceable 7-card hand. I don't think we actually want Dazes that early when we're not defending like Ragavans. So I think this will let us develop and dig towards the cards that matter. More threats, Expressive Iteration, stuff like that. So I really like the start. And he's mulliganing to 6. So we'll lead the way with the Dragon's Fate Channeler. Island, okay. So we're seeing the turn 1 cantrip. Not shuffle, okay. I think I'm going to start off with the Brainstorm. We certainly have multiple cards we're not really looking for, so Gut Shot. I think we can pretty safely bend the Gut Shot. We drew the Unholy Heat, so if a creature does come down, we can get rid of it. We've gotten punished a few times for not having this, for getting rid of Wasteland, but I still think it makes sense. Even if my opponent mulliganed, they are still Prismatic Vista deck. They have plenty of basics, and they're really looking to get their basics on early. So I think we'd rather just have the lands to help us develop rather than the chance of disrupting them. Because it really is just a chance. It's not a guarantee at all in this matchup. So let's ponder. If we can turn on Delirium, that'd be nice. With Ragavan, I think it's worth turning on Delirium. We get him for 3. And okay, these are good. Delver's another threat. And now I like having these Dazes, because we're going to have a couple threats in play, hypothetically. Sure, I will happily Daze a Prismatic Ending here. And that's what we're going to see. I'm not going to bin the Wasteland, but I will be... I mean, I'm not going to bin the Delver, but I will be binning the Wasteland. I'm going to go Brainstorm plus Delver next turn. So let's do this. Because we can get rid of this Volcanic Island at least. And I guess the Scalding Tarn. That seems good. So now we just have a really aggressive start here. This hand is weirdly good against Endurance, which is usually the card we're most mindful of. So, but not as good against a pile of Prismatic Endings and stuff like that. So hopefully we can draw Expressive Iteration. But I like where we're at. I'm going to happily Daze this. It gives us the Surveil to help transform the Delver. I don't think we need another... I mean, maybe it's okay to have another Delver here, but I think transforming it just applies so much pressure for us. Mishra's Bauble. Okay, so I will not like to reveal. I will cast Mishra's Bauble. I will top Ponder. And I will pass after attacking. And then we'll see what my opponent's drawing. And then we'll do a Bauble trick with the Delver, which you can stack the triggers. So they're drawing Windswept Teeth. So you can stack the triggers in a way that lets you transform the Delver. Okay? Okay, so we are seeing the Mana Denial plan here. We'll top the Ponder. Icefang Coatl doesn't bother us. Prismatic Ending's a little annoying. Like, this isn't bad because it's just a chump blocker. And we can still just draw a land, because they only have 2 snow covered. So let's make sure we stack this correctly. So we want to draw off Bauble second. So let's reveal Ponder. Then we'll draw. We drew a land, so we just get to kill our opponent here. Okay, cool. Okay, so we've been winning the game 1's actually a reasonable amount, which is nice. I think this is game 1 I've been more concerned about than the post-board games. Post-board games, you know, it's still all really close. But I think this strategy has been pretty effective. And again, I don't really see a good reason to change our plan here. I really like the way it's looking. Just because it didn't quite work out last match doesn't mean it's not an effective plan. And I don't think we've seen anything that really makes me want to change this either. We haven't seen Carpet of Flowers, which is really interesting. I'm pretty confident that if there are Carpet of Flowers in Brian's deck, it's very small quantities. But I don't think that makes me want Daze anymore. I think we've seen Daze be kind of awkward in a lot of situations. So I think this is still the way to go. Here we are for game 2 on the draw. Okay, so this is a keep. Seeing the Surgical early does really suck, though, because it's really the only... You only want to draw it when they have Uro going. That being said, you really can't mulligan a hand that has Expressive Iteration, Channeler, some land, and like other playable cards. This is a very reasonable hand. The first Carpet of Flowers sighting, there it is. So the thing with Carpet of Flowers, it's going to resolve. The thing with Carpet of Flowers is it can be annoying to play through because it does provide a lot of mana, but the reason it's good is when they have the engines going, and maybe sometimes it's worth forcing, but I would basically never force a Carpet of Flowers when I have a Surgical, because Surgical hitting Uro greatly diminishes the impact of a Carpet of Flowers here. Wasteland, okay, this is fine. Of course, if there's another one, then that might be tough. It's not great for us because we have this Expressive Iteration, of course, but and now we can't cast it, but Brainstorm's good. So we're going to Brainstorm end of turn. There's no reason to do it now. We can't actually get Delirium. Unless we wanted to cast Surgical, which I don't. This Surgical, I'm just going to be holding holding on to for dear life. I'll pretty happily daze the Wasteland. Wasteland the Tundra. This Coval's not that big of a deal, so I'm going to let it go. I'll cast Brainstorm here. I could get the island to play around Wasteland, but we really need to cast our red spells. So yeah, this is good. We can bend that, work towards Delirium. Yeah, this is a pretty reasonable set of cards here. So I was going to Wasteland before I drew the Murktide, and now I think it's better to just set up the Murktide here. Attacking Brian's mana is not particularly the direction we want to go here. It's not really an effective strategy when they have Cooperative Flowers. And at some point, we're going to have to get a second land anyway. We have expensive iteration. We need to cast our more expensive spells. So I'm pretty happy to just do it like this. I won't be attacking the Channeler. Next turn, I can go Heat on the Quaddle to clear it. But I will be casting Murktide. Unfortunately, we have to get rid of our creatures in the graveyard, but I think that's acceptable. So Brian has tons of mana, but again, unless there's an engine, it's not that big of a deal. It is annoying to play against, but we don't have that many dazes in our deck. We don't really have soft permission, so it's just letting him play a bunch of spells. If he just starts his turn with a Sword Splashers here, that's interesting. I don't know what I'll do in that case. Adding blue, I'll probably just force it now, because I think there was a lot to be said about pushing my advantage while they have this carpet going. Blue-green, Life and Loam. They did not play a land yet. So that's really interesting, actually. I don't think I want to surgical this now. I think I'm okay with one of my cards getting hit here. Okay, and they're not going to start wastelanding me yet. If they fetch, I probably will submerge in response. Path to Exile. Now I think I'm just going to force pitching the Submerge. We can bend the Channeler. I know there's a Wasteland in Brian's hand here. Brainstorm. Okay, so I think I like casting the Expressive Iteration. It's a little risky if we miss on a land, but it's not that big of a deal. And we didn't. Okay, so Iteration in hand, land, play a land, and we're just going to Unholy Heat the Icebank Waddle, and then we're going to crack in for 7. I'm happy we didn't do anything to the Life in the Loam, because I just don't think it matters that much. I'm going to set a draw step stop, though, just in case they mill over Uro. I want to be able to interact with that. But right now, they have a ton of mana, but one of their engines is a mana engine, and they don't have any removal set up for our creatures as it stands. So I think this is a pretty decent situation to be in. I can't imagine him dredging over Loam. That seems a little bit bold here, yeah. Okay, Plow into Murktide. That's a tough way for me to start. That's not exactly what we wanted to see, because that was pretty important to our plan. But we have plenty of ways to rebuild here. He has not played a land. Okay, so still has Wasteland in hand. Endurance. Okay, that's not too bad. Obviously, it's going to stifle our pressure a little bit here, but it's not the end of the world. Pyroblast is actually a good draw because they just put the Orion in hand. So let's start with Expressive Iteration. Murktide. I think that's a good draw here. So let's go Murktide in hand, force there, Ponder, cast Ponder. Wasteland is not a particularly good draw here. I wouldn't mind hitting a land of some other variety. Oh, this is actually kind of interesting. So I could go draw Submerge, submerge one of these away, like cast Submerge on the Endurance, getting rid of the Delver, and then use Surgical on Life and the Loam. Because I haven't seen an Uro yet. I know that Yorion's looming, but this lets me get him for 3, and then I can follow up next turn with Pyroblast plus Murktide. Because if I Surgical the Loam, I am getting rid of the Endurance. So that certainly mitigates that as a problem. Very interesting. Very interesting. I mean, I definitely want to Submerge, and I don't know if... Like, I need to clear the way of this Endurance at some point for my Dragon Rage Channeler. It seems like the problem is we lose our Surgical as an answer to Uro, but we still do have Pyroblast if we really need to, and we'll get to know what's in his hand. And actually, because of the surgical, we might just get rid of the Ragavan too. I think with just Murktide, we kind of just want to find some more impactful cards at this stage. So I actually kind of like this. It's a little weird. It's a little bold. Put that in our graveyard. Actually, maybe I'll just surgical to Swords to Plowshares. I don't care that much about the Life in the Lone Wasteland stuff. But Swords to Plowshares is their primary answer to Murktide Regent. So yeah, I think I'm actually going to do that. I'm anticipating next turn I'll be Pyroblasting plus Murktide Regenting. They do have the Green Sun, so they will have the Uro at some point here. But Murktide can definitely just kind of go over the top of that. We're only going to get single Wastelanded if anything else. If nothing else. So they have Green Sun plus 1,000,000 mana. They could just get Primetime, but Primetime doesn't really beat Murktide as it is. Oh, I probably should have looked at the deck a little bit more closely there, if I'm honest. This is the only time I've cast Surgical so far. But I have seen a reasonable amount of the deck. I mean, the Carpet of Flowers was among the cards I haven't. Adding green. Okay. So I'm anticipating this is Green Sun for Uro into Cast Uro. Or like Flashback Uro. But if that's the case, he would have to either have drawn a land, a blue source. I think it would be better to just play the Wasteland and tap it for mana to guarantee this. This is not that bad, just because we have the Pyroblast to deal with the Uro. Okay, so the Uro is going to come down. Wouldn't mind drawing a Forcible here. Okay, so those are the two things. So it's Yorion. So a Forcible would be good, or even a land, honestly. Brainstorm. I get him for 3. I play a big Murktide. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's possible I could get all of my lands wastelanded, but it's not that likely. Okay. And the Uro can't attack safely. He does still have to deal with what I have going on here. Dredging Loam's an interesting decision here. You could loam back to Wasteland. I would happily block the Uro, of course. No question there. Okay, so I guess we'll see where we're at. I'm definitely going to get one of my lands wastelanded here. Okay, so that's not double wasteland. Green Sun for 2. That's Icefang Quaddle. That's not bad. So wasteland, Yorion in hand. Another Green Sun would be problematic. Okay, because now I can't get through the double Icefang as easily. But we're certainly not out of it. If we just draw another Pyroblast, we have a chance. Oh, okay, he is going to attack with the Uro. Interesting. Well, definitely blocking that. Okay. Have I gone through both Submergers? I have. Okay. Days. Interesting. Okay, well, I have to start with a Brainstorm here for sure. I'll bin the Ragavan. Okay, so let me check what mana I have left. I have 1 Steam Vents left in my deck and an island. So I have to be mindful about that. I think the most realistic way for me to win involves getting rid of Iteration plus Days. Holding a Pyroblast to Pyroblast Yorion or Uro, and then drawing some removal spell, like drawing another removal spell for the Icefang Quaddle. It's not a pretty situation for sure, but I think that's the most realistic thing for me to do here. So let's put back these two. I mean, I could also just attack with the Dragon's Face Channeler. If Brian trades, that's good for me. Because then I only need... Yeah, this actually makes sense to me. Okay, I didn't think... So I get him one point of damage this way. Pretty close to getting wasted out, but I'm not wasted out yet. So, yeah, so we got a little punished for getting rid of the Sword Plowshares, of course. Getting rid of the Sword Plowshares instead of the Life in the Loam, because now we're liable to get wasted out. At that stage of the game, Loam didn't seem like it was particularly likely to function as an engine, and I just wanted to help push through the Murktide regions. But I think that has ended up being a little bit too bold of a strategy against what we're facing here. Definitely going to Pyroblast this. See what we have on top. The island. I think the island is worthwhile to keep. I mean, we don't have that many more cards we can cast here, so... Unfortunately, we are in a situation where the Days would have actually been good, because we can potentially Days a Yorion here. But I'm imagining Life in the Loam on the Wastelands coming up. Quite the game. Really interesting. Okay, another Wasteland in hand. Okay. So we're running out of ways to get through these Icewind Coatls, for sure. Because we don't have Gutshot and we don't have the Submerges. So let's just play Island and cast Brainstorm. I think that doesn't do anything anymore. 1, 2, 3, 4, plus this event, 5. Okay, so Graveyard. Man, and we drew the removal spells. We're not turning on Delirium anytime soon either. So our red source is going to get Wastelanded. We know they have Yorion in hand. Yeah, we don't really have any way to do this anymore. I think we can just concede. We can't get through these double Icewind Coatls. Yep. Okay, nice. So, yeah, we got punished for getting rid of the Loams. Of course, it's possible he would have drawn some combination of Swords to Plowshares anyway. But either way, we're going to the last game. And now, I don't know if we've seen Loam in the previous games. So, how does this change the way I've been sideboarding on the play here? I'm still pretty happy not having too many Wastelands. It's possible I could just want to bring out another Wasteland, keep in the Surgical, and bring in a second copy of Daze. The Wastelands do help me cast spells, but, like, not that many, honestly. And there's, like, I'm not going to keep any hands on the basis of having a Wasteland, pretty much. So, I think I'm going to do this. I think this makes some sense. Push through... Yeah, keep the Surgical, because now we've seen the Loam for sure, so we know that it's present. I don't think Force of Negation, like, actually gets better there. Okay, we're going to go for this. This has been an exciting set of matches. We're on the play, game 3 of match 5 in the Brian Coval $500 challenge. We got a mulligan. Easy. Don't have to think about it. This hand is good. So, I'm pretty happy to just start on Ponder. And because of that, so I'm going to put back... So, generally, in these situations, I like keeping a... Like, I don't want to shuffle the Volcanic Island back in my deck after putting it on the bottom. I like having the Volk there otherwise. But, like, because we have this Murktide, we kind of want to fuel Delve more quickly. So, I'm going to put this back. The thinning matters a little bit less than, like, actually facilitating what we're doing. This is not a perfect hand, because we don't really want to force pitching Murktide, and we need to cast his Ponder for sure. But I certainly don't mind it. There's that Surgical again. I'm going to keep this because I want the Brainstorm, and then I'm just going to go land pass next turn. So I'm probably going to cast a Brainstorm end of turn. So we'll see here. Abundant Growth, okay. So I don't mind Pyroblasting a cantrip if that's going to come up. Let's just play Thunderstrand and pass. And part of the reason to cast Brainstorm end of turn is it's going to help us cast Murktide on the following turn. Okay, this is fine. I'm actually just going to cast Brainstorm now then. Ooh, a little bit of lag. These are good cards. I don't think I need Surgical now that I'm going to have this Narset. And Submerge is... I think Submerge is reasonable to keep. So I can draw that, or I can choose not to. I could Pyroblast that. I actually kind of like that. So I'll get rid of the Submerge. I can always force pitching the Narset. I think I want to use my mana while I can here. It's possible I should just, like, have Narset be my entire plan here. But I think having the Murktide down is going to force him to interact with me. And if I draw any blue card next turn, then I can still play Narset and have Force Wall back up. Okay, so Sword Splash is sure. So Mystical Dispute's the only card I've seen from him that can stop this. So hopefully he doesn't have it, but he might. So he brought back in Force of Will. Well, maybe he still had the copy, but I haven't seen him cast any here, so... Okay. Nothing here, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have Endurance or whatever, because he didn't put Yorion back in his hand. Oh, no, he did. Okay, so maybe he does have nothing here. We need to draw an Expressive Iteration pretty quickly. I am going to play this land because it's going to help me. If I draw another land, I can hardcast Force. This is the most different of the games we've played so far, for sure. Relative to the other matches. Caracas, okay. So Ragavan's no longer a good drop, but that's alright. As if on cue, Ragavan shows up, but that's okay. I'm going to let Endurance resolve. It's not great for me, but Yorion is looming, so Brainstorm, sure. So yeah, so Pyroblasting the Ponder, how has that worked out for me? The Force of Will, I wouldn't have been able to defend the Narset anyway. Carpet of Flowers. Okay. That's only problematic if an Uro's coming down here. I will have to force a Yorion, no doubt. It looks like he doesn't have anything else, too, so I don't know what his follow-up is. Channeler. So, yeah, I'll at least play that. It's not great with this Endurance around, but... So, yeah, if an Uro's going to come down, we'll probably lose that with this Carpet of Flowers and all their mana. So, Plow. Okay, that's fine. Because Murktide's certainly the card we're looking for. So he's kind of on a beatdown. I don't know if he has anything else. Maybe he has more interaction, but he doesn't have anything proactive. Sure, that's fine. That doesn't bother me too much. We do need to find an expressive iteration pretty quickly here. If we found Wasteland, I guess that would be good too. We did side down to 1, but it's not a big deal. Days. That's pretty bad here. We're going to play this. Because we have 2 cards we want to shuffle away to Brainstorm anyway. And once he finds an engine card, or something like a Green Sun Zenith, we're going to be in dire straits, no doubt. But Abundant Growth, that's okay. Dryad Arbor, okay. Brainstorm, perfect. Okay, these are reasonable. So put back that and that. We'll play the Channeler. That's probably going to at least have Brian start holding back the Endurance, unless he has a removal spell for it. Ice Fang Coatl. We have Lightning Bolt. That's not a huge deal. Gotta have him whiff a little bit here. And we have to draw one of our... keep drawing a little bit of gasoline here, no doubt. But... Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt this Ice Fang Coatl now. I'm definitely going to bolt it at some point. Actually, maybe I just bolt the Dryad Arbor. That's interesting. No, I think the Ice Fang Coatl is more problematic, like, long-term. Even though he only has 1 Snowland right now. I'm going to bolt this now. This is going to give me a little bit more information. Court of Cunning. Wow, that's interesting. I think I'm supposed to bin that. Because I can Endurance the... I can submerge the Endurance. I can block the Dryad Arbor, submerge the Endurance. Maybe I'm supposed to just do that. Actually. And that gives me the best chance. Yeah. Maybe this is the best chance for me to get out of this. Okay. So I'll submerge the Endurance when it goes to attack. And I'm drawing Expressive. Okay. So if he's whiffed and has a couple of blanks in his hand, if he can take this back, it's going to be really bad. But it doesn't look like he's there yet. So again, if he has like 3 blanks or 3 interactive spells, we might be in business. Because I can mill away the Endurance here, which is a little unfortunate. Okay, so what's this? What is this? Oh, Prismatic Ending on Court of Cunning. Okay. Sure, that doesn't really matter. Like, now I can't mill away the Endurance, of course, but the Monarchy is the #1 most important thing here. We do need to find interaction. Murktide's actually pretty good. So let's go Murktide in hand, Ragavan, Steam Vents. I'm actually going to shuffle first. Oh, crap. We don't have any more lands. Okay, well, now we just have to play Murktide. Hopefully we draw Force of Will, and he doesn't have, like, Swords to Plowshares. This is a really interesting situation. Wasteland. Okay. Because we could lose the Monarchy, and that's going to make it tough. No doubt. Path. Okay, I'll take the shuffle. We do still have another Submerge. We have the Wasteland for the Caracas now, so... Ooh, what a game. So Ragavan can function as a trump blocker, although it's possible they have more prismatic endings. Is this a game we lost in Izzet? I think it is, but it got shuffled. It's on the bottom now. Unholy Heat. Oh, that's so close. Tarn, Brainstorm, Channeler. No, I'm going to just Wasteland the Caracas now. I'm definitely going to do that. Play Channeler. Okay, this... So we have it as a trump blocker, and there's an outside chance that we could actually turn on Delirium, too. So let's Brainstorm. If we just need to find any creature... We did. Okay. Wow, what a close game. If he had another Endurance, this is really bad, but there's nothing we can really do about that. So we put back Scalding Tarn on bottom, Ragavan here. On the Holy Heat, bin the Ragavan. That turns on Delirium. Okay, that worked, so we get to keep the Monarchy at least for one more turn. And we have Lightning Bolt to check smaller creatures. Pyroblast, that's a great draw. Okay. Okay, so Dryad Orb was gone. We don't have to worry about that. And we drew Expressive. Really good. We're not out of the woods, but this is about as good as it's going to get. So let's go Expressive in hand, Delver on bottom, Ragavan. Let's cast Ragavan. We have Bolt plus Pyroblast up. I don't want to dash it. And I just want to draw Force of Will now. We still have a couple of them left. Okay, I am actually going to Pyroblast this. Because I think it's pretty clear he doesn't have anything. And I don't want him to set up the top of his library to play around Ragavan. Oh, we redrew Izzet. Oh, that is so good. Okay, so let's connect with Ragavan and see what we hit first. Okay, let's cast Izzet. I think I like this more than Iteration. Because I really want to find Force of Will. And I think this digs me the deepest towards finding it. If we found it, great. And we'll pass. Another Ragavan, that's good if he draws an answer, but... This has been a great game. Leovold. Okay, so again, we've seen this in a previous match. I can just let that resolve because I can bolt that now, and you can't draw another card. Because of Izzet. Okay, so let's start with an Expressive Iteration here. I think more Force Wills are better than any number of Pyroblasts. We can just exile the land, but I think I might just shuffle. Well, I can play that anyway. Coval. Good. I don't mind moving the discard. I'm going to minus the Izzet. And take... I think Unholy Heat's better than any of these. Because I can just discard these two lands and be pretty pleased. 1, 2, and now we have Murktide for next turn. Wow. I think we're approaching it here. Court of Cunning really did it here. I've been saying to people for a while the thing that doesn't matter, like the Court of Cunning itself doesn't matter on the court. The thing that matters is the Monarchy, and we see the Monarchy really just doing it here. I gained a land. This must have been from an Endurance. That would be my guess. Okay, we'll attack. We're going to ponder. I guess we'll cast our opponent's Brainstorm. We're not particularly close to decking, which is funny that we have to think about that. I want to transform the Delver, so we'll put it back like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Play the Delver. We'll draw the Ragavan. We'll discard the Flutterstrand. We'll transform off the Daze. And with this hand, I think that's all we wrote here. Okay, we won it. We went 4-1 in this challenge. I'm really pleased with how that went. Not just because the stakes were high, and of course I wanted to win with the high stakes, but also because I thought this matchup was difficult, And without wildly changing any of the core elements of the deck, I formed a plan that would be effective in the matchup, and I was able to see how it played out in the games, and it ended up being very meaningful. And I think because I had a good sense of how I was approaching it and kind of what all my cards, like what the purpose of all my cards are, I think we could really see that play out. So thanks everyone for watching this. This has been a lot of fun to record. This was a lot of fun to play. Thanks again, Brian, to inviting me. I mean, again, regardless of the outcome, I would have been appreciative. I would have done this without the high stakes, but with the high stakes, it made it a really high adrenaline situation for sure. And I really enjoyed it, and I hope you all did too.